Everyone was waiting. Every single person who had followed the story from the moment the North America leg was announced. Every army who had tracked every flight path and every sold-out confirmation. Every fan who had watched every fan cam from every city across 5 different American stops. Every person who had sat in front of a screen at 2 in the morning trying to catch a live stream of a Las Vegas concert they could not attend in person. Everyone was waiting for Jimin to come home. And then he did. And what happened next was something that even the people who thought they had completely prepared for it were entirely unprepared for. If you think you already know the story, I need you to stay with me for the full length of this video. Because the part that changed everything is not the part that most people have been talking about. And by the time this video is over, you're going to understand why every single moment of the North America tour looks different once you know what happened behind it. But before we go anywhere, if you are new to this channel, hit subscribe right now, because we are about to break down one of the most emotionally loaded chapters in recent BTS history, and there is a tremendous amount more content coming as the Busan concerts approach on June 12th and 13th. And if you have been here for a while, drop a comment below right now and tell me one thing. What was the single moment during the entire North America leg that you still cannot get out of your head? The clip you have rewatched more times than you are comfortable admitting. The moment you described to another person and got emotional in the middle of explaining it. I want to know. I read every single comment. Let us get into it. To understand what made the homecoming so significant, you first have to understand the full weight of what had just been completed. Because the North America leg of the Arirang World Tour was not a normal run of stadium concerts. It was not simply a successful commercial tour by a globally popular group. It was 15 sold-out shows across 5 cities: Tampa, El Paso, Mexico City, Stanford, and Las Vegas, with a combined audience of approximately 840,000 people. Say that number out loud. 840,000 people across an entire continent. Every single show sold out before the majority of fans could even complete the ticket checkout process. BTS selling out Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas in 23 minutes flat, which was the fastest any act had ever sold out a 65,000-seat venue in that building's history. And through all of it, every show, every city, every night across weeks of relentless touring, Jimin showed up in a way that stopped stadiums cold. In Tampa, he turned an impromptu body roll during Pied Piper into one of the most rewatched clips of the entire tour leg. The kind of spontaneous moment that happens when a performer stops executing a production and starts feeling the room, and what he felt made 65,000 people lose their minds simultaneously. In Mexico City, at Estadio GNP Seguros across 3 nights, he recreated a technically demanding side flip from more than 10 years earlier, mid-performance, in a stadium, after already performing multiple shows on consecutive weeks, and Mexico's largest sports media outlet published a headline calling him their brother. In Stanford, his live vocal delivery of Like Animals became the most discussed performance moment of the entire California dates. Music journalists and fans described his breath control, his restraint, his decision-making about when to pull back and when to open, the live vocal presence that is impossible to replicate with any amount of studio production. And in Las Vegas, over 4 consecutive sold-out nights at Allegiant Stadium, he introduced a different hairstyle each evening, began night 1 with a braided look that sent Jimin braids trending as the overall #1 topic on X in the United States within minutes of the show starting, freestyle dance through a 2-spin combination that silenced 65,000 people for half a second before the room erupted, performed through an active cold on the final night by making the deliberate choice to walk all the way to the furthest end of the 360-degree protruding stage because the fans seated in those sections had paid for and earned the full version of him, and along the way accidentally produced a TikTok clip of himself smiling at a security staff member, a half-second of unguarded human warmth between choreographed movements that accumulated 69 million views and 9 million likes within 5 days of posting. He did all of this, and then he got on a plane and came home to Korea. And here is where the story takes the turn that nobody was fully prepared for. On May 28, 2026, the same day as the final Las Vegas concert, the night the North America leg came to its close, BTS leader RM went live on Weverse. Now this was already notable on its own. It was a regular weekday afternoon in Korean time, the tour leg had just concluded its last show, and RM went live not to announce anything, Not to promote a release, not for any scheduled reason at all, but simply to talk. For over an hour. To 3.7 million viewers who tuned in on a regular Wednesday, because when RM chooses to speak at length about something real, people understand instinctively that they should stop what they are doing and listen. And what he said during that broadcast did not just generate headlines. It completely and permanently reframed the meaning of everything that had taken place across 5 American cities and 840,000 people. RM talked about the day Jin completed his mandatory military service. He talked about what it felt like in the room when Jin came home. He said that when Jin was discharged, the mental state of the members was at a very low point. Pause on that. These are 7 people who had spent years separated from each other, from the stage they had built together, from the daily rhythm of being BTS. Jin came home first. The eldest member, who had voluntarily chosen to enlist earlier than required in order to set a precedent for the others, completed his service and walked back into civilian life. And instead of uncomplicated relief, instead of celebration, the room that gathered was heavy. RM said he played the saxophone on that day. He sat with his discharge, with Jin back in front of him, and played the saxophone. That detail is so specific, so strange and tender and quietly devastating, so unlike anything you would put in a press release, that fans who heard it reported it as one of the most vivid and real things they had ever learned about the interior life of this group. But then RM said the thing that is the entire reason this video exists. He said it simply, in the middle of a longer reflection, and it landed the way the most important things always land, without announcement, without fanfare, without any indication that this particular sentence was going to change how you understood everything that had come before it. He said, Jimin gathered everyone at home, and we all struggled and cried together. He said the members sat inside that difficulty together. He said they comforted each other. And he said that in those conversations, the members said to each other, "You need to lead the team," and made a collective pledge. "Let's repay the fans as soon as we return, just as they have waited for us." That was the promise. Not a strategy session. Not a business plan. A group of people sitting together in Jimin's apartment, some of them still in active service. All of them carrying the exhaustion of years apart and the weight of knowing how long ARMY had been waiting, choosing in the middle of their own grief and uncertainty to make a commitment to the people outside the room. Now go back through everything you watched during the North America leg and look at it through that lens. Go back to the moment Jimin chose to walk the length of the 360-degree stage on the final Las Vegas night, even though he was sick, because in those far seats were people who had waited just as he and his members had waited. Go back to the American Music Awards where BTS accepted Artist of the Year, their first award show appearance in 4 years, and Jimin spoke to ARMY directly in both English and Korean, and then later that same night posted an edited version of the official winner card on Weverse with his own name crossed out and replaced by a single word. ARMY. Go back to the TikTok video of him smiling at a security guard, not performing, not aware of a camera, just being a person in a moment of warmth, that generated 69 million views because 69 million people recognized something real in it. Every single one of those moments was the promise. Every freestyle dance. Every trip to the end of the stage. Every hairstyle chosen specifically because the person attending all 4 nights deserved to see something new each time. The promise, being kept in every form it could take, night after night, city after city, 840,000 people at a time. And there is something about Jimin specifically that deserves to be stated clearly here because it risks getting absorbed into the larger story of the group. The person who gathered everyone on the hard day was Jimin. When the room was low and the members needed a center, he created the center. He called them together. He held the space for all of them to be honest about how difficult it was before they decided what to do about it. This is the same person who spotted a fan's custom-made shirt in a crowd of 65,000 people in Tampa and found time after the show to post about her and write "Love you." The same person who in Mexico City wore a lucha libre mask and cheered for the hero and booed the villain like he had been attending those events his entire life, because when Jimin shows up somewhere new, he does not perform interest. He is simply and completely interested. The same person who confirmed in November 2025, months before the album released, that all the tracks for Arirang were finished and it would be ready for a spring release. He is always already looking forward. He is always already doing the next part of the work. The RM, Weverse Live, gave the world a single window into how far back that orientation goes, and what it looks like when it is turned toward the people he loves most. Now let us talk about what is waiting for Jimin in Korea. Because if you assume the story reached a pause when the plane landed, you have significantly underestimated what Busan has been building toward. Fans have organized a full-scale campaign they are calling Jimin World across the entire month of June, designed to coincide with BTS's concerts at Busan Agustd Main Stadium on June 12th and 13th, which also fall during the period of BTS's 13th debut anniversary. A single car of Busan Subway Line 3 has been completely wrapped in Jimin's image. Not a poster, not a window decal. A full wrap from floor to ceiling and door to door, and it has been officially named the Jimin Train. It will run for the entire month of June with the active cooperation of officials from Busan Transportation Corporation. This is not an unofficial fan project pieced together at the margins. This is a formally organized, city institution-supported integration of ParkJimin into the daily transportation infrastructure of the city that raised him. And it does not stop there. Full advertisement placements have been secured for the entire month of June at the entrance gates and circular pillars of Sports Complex Station on Line 3, which is a subway station that serves the Busan Agustd Main Stadium directly. Jimin's photographs and illustrated characters will greet every single person who arrives at that station throughout June, whether they are there for the BTS concert or simply arriving at the stop closest to where they work. His face will be the first visual encounter of the venue for every fan traveling from overseas who has come to Busan specifically because Jimin is performing in the city where he grew up. His face will also just be there, as part of the regular visual texture of the city, for the people who live there and ride that line every day. Both of those experiences are part of what makes this extraordinary. It is not just for the concert audience. It is for Busan itself. Think about what it means for Jimin to return to that city and know this is there. He grew up in Busan. He rode those subway lines as a teenager. He walked those streets before anyone outside of Gyeongnam knew his name. He left for Seoul at an age when most people are still figuring out who they are, carried nothing but the work ethic and the audition that his entire future depended on, and spent years building something that changed what the world understood was possible for Korean music and Korean artists. Then he served. Then he came back. Then he gathered his members on a hard day and helped make a promise. Then he delivered that promise to 840,000 people across an entire continent. And now his hometown has put his face on a train. His city is wearing him in June. The Jimin train is running through the streets he grew up on, and he's going to be on those streets again in days. For every army anywhere in the world who cannot physically be in Busan for June 12th or June 13th, the infrastructure is already in place. BTS World Tour Arirang in Busan. Live viewing will broadcast the June 13th concert live to movie theaters across the globe. One night, live. The official trailer has already been released. And after Busan, the European leg begins in Madrid on June 26th, followed by the second North America leg in East Rutherford in August. The Arirang album spent 3 consecutive weeks at the #1 position on the Billboard 200. It sold nearly 4 million copies in its first 24 hours. It streamed 110 million times on Spotify in a single day, a record for a K-pop album. The promise that was made in one apartment in Korea is being paid back at a scale that nobody could have fully anticipated. And it is still going. There is another layer to the story that tends to disappear inside the spectacle of large numbers and viral moments, and it deserves its own space. What does it actually feel like, physically and emotionally, to do what Jimin just did across the North America leg? Not the highlight reel version. He performed in Tampa on April 25th, 26th, and 28th. Then El Paso on May 2nd and 3rd. Then Mexico City for shows on May 8th, 10 and 11. Then Stanford for May 20th and 21st. Then Las Vegas for May 23rd, 24, 27, and 28. That is 15 performances across approximately 33 days. 15 times standing in front of tens of thousands of people and delivering not just the choreography and the notes, but the presence, the full, attentive, spontaneous, irreplaceable human presence that is the thing people are actually buying a ticket to experience. Each of those nights cost something. Each freestyle moment, each trip to the far end of the stage, each decision to give more than the production required, all of it draws from a finite account. And on night 4 of Las Vegas, When he was sick and could have done less and nobody would have faulted him and the show would have been complete either way, he went to the end of the stage anyway. That is character, but it is also cost. Knowing the cost, he paid it. Consider also what the AMA appearance represented in that context. Between Night 2 and Night 4 in Las Vegas, on May 25th, Jimin attended the 52nd American Music Awards at MGM Grand Garden Arena. He walked a red carpet that a Billboard reporter described in real time by saying she was now in full Jimin watch mode, that she could hear screaming before he was even visible, asking aloud whether it was him yet. He wore a Dior Men's Fall/Winter 2026 ensemble that immediately generated its own separate conversation in fashion media, entirely apart from the music conversation. BTS won 3 awards that night: Artist of the Year, Song of the Summer for Swim, and Best Male K-pop Artist. Their first award show appearance in 4 years. And Jimin, who had already performed 2 stadium shows and had 2 more ahead of him, stood in that room and received those acknowledgments and thought first of the people who had voted. He said it in English, and then said it again in Korean, so it would reach everyone it was meant for. And then he posted the edited winner card. And then he went back to Allegiant Stadium the next night. There is a specific detail about the TikTok video, the one of Jimin smiling at a security staff member during a pause in the performance, that says something worth naming directly. That video reached 69 million views and 9 million likes within 5 days. The comments included things like, "It looks like a scene from a movie. It deserves to be on a book cover." People were not watching it because of what he was doing. They were watching it because of the quality of attention he brings to ordinary moments. The security staff member who received that smile was not necessarily expecting to be seen. Jimin saw them, and 69 million people watched the result of what it looks like to be seen by someone who is genuinely paying attention, because genuine attention is rare and recognizable, and the human response to it crosses every language and every culture. That is what makes Jimin distinct at the scale of a global stadium tour. He is paying attention all the time, and in both directions, to the fans in the far seats, and to the person standing right next to him who did not expect to be included, to the promise made in his apartment, and to the individual in the crowd of 65,000. The album itself carries weight in the story that is worth restating clearly. Arirang was built after years of individual creative development by each member during and after military service, and it represents the synthesis of all of that separate growth returning into a single group body. Nearly 4 million copies sold in its first day of release. 110 million Spotify streams in 24 hours, a new record for a K-pop album on that platform. 3 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200. The lead single Swim, debuting at the top of the Hot 100. These are numbers that belong to the conversation about the most commercially impactful musical acts in contemporary history. And they are the surface of something that was made after 7 people sat together in an apartment and decided they owed the world a promise. The 2 things are not separate. The promise produced the album. The album opened the tour. The tour reached 840,000 people across 5 cities. The 840,000 people are the promise being honored in the only form large enough to match what it was made with. Jimin confirmed as early as November 2025, in a communication with fans on Weverse, that all the tracks for the new album were finished and ready for a spring 2026 release. He said this while the group was still building back toward full group activity. That moment now carries a different weight in light of what RM shared on the Weverse Live. He knew what they were building toward. The promise had already translated into finished music, and he was telling ARMY it was on its way. The timeline: a hard day, a gathering, a promise. Then an album confirmed done by November. Then released in March. Then a tour launched in April. Then 840,000 people by the end of May. Then Busan. The straight line between the apartment and the Jimin train is unbroken. So here is what I want you to carry with you when this video ends. When everyone was waiting for Jimin to come home, they were waiting for the next visible moment. The next post. The next fancam. What they received instead, through RM's voice on a Wednesday afternoon Weverse Live with 3.7 million people listening, was the story behind every moment that had already happened. The story of a day before the album was announced, before any tickets went on sale, before any rehearsal was booked, when 7 people sat together in Jimin's apartment and were honest about how hard it was and decided together that they were going to make it worth it for everyone who had waited. That conversation is the foundation of everything that came after it. Tampa, El Paso, Mexico City, Stanford, Las Vegas, 840,000 people. 3 AMA awards. A winner card with the name ARMY written where BTS used to be. A train running through Busan wearing a face that grew up on those same streets. If you have been part of the story from the beginning, if you voted, if you streamed, if you booked a flight to Tampa or El Paso or Las Vegas, if you watched at 2 in the morning from somewhere that was not America, if you organized a fan project or contributed to an ad truck, or simply held on through the years of waiting, RM's words on that Weverse Live were about you. Let's repay the fans as soon as we return, just as they have waited for us. That pledge was made with you as its object, and every night of the North America leg was a payment on that debt. And Busan is coming, and then Europe, and then New York, and the promise is still nowhere close to finished. Subscribe right now if you're not already on this channel, because the Busan coverage is coming, the Jimin train content is coming, the live viewing reaction content is coming, the European leg preview is coming, and we are going to be here for every single moment of it. Drop a comment below right now. Tell me which part of this story hit you hardest. Was it what RM revealed about the day in Jimin's apartment? Was it the image of the Jimin train running through Busan? Was it the edited winner card? Was it Jimin walking to the end of the stage on his sick night because the people in those seats deserve the same as everyone else? Tell me, because this story does not belong only to Jimin. It never has. It belongs to everyone who was waiting. And the next chapter starts in Busan on June 12th.